In this video, I am going to give my opinion on a gorilla versus 100 men. I have been researching versus battles and biology of these animals for a long time. And what I have noticed is that little is known for certain. Very few research is actually done to gauge the strength of these animals, which is understandable, since that should be the least important thing a scientist should be worrying about. However, huge portion of the information out there is just inaccurate hearsay that people use to make confident claims. I have seen even expert in the field of biology citing these numbers. I will touch upon a few of these misconceptions which I don't think majority of people seem to understand. There is all sort of metrics on the internet on how strong an animal is. Some of it is outright fake, while even those which are real differ by studies. Firstly, let's look at bite force. All those stats on bite forces in PSI, that is so often cited, those tables are unreliable. And my usual experience is that the source mentioning bite force in PSY are some internet articles with no credible citation rather than actual scientific papers. While I believe that scientific papers can be used as a baseline for understanding, we will also have to keep in mind the potential on margin for error. These research use biomechanical model of the skull to measure these bite forces. Scientific studies typically express bite force in newtons, N, a unit of force, rather than PSY, which measures pressure, force per unit area. This distinction is crucial because PSI values require precise knowledge of the contact area over which the force is applied. Even the force is different on different part of the skull due to lever mechanics. There are other things to consider, but as a layman, it's good to cite some research papers and look at the maximum force applied in newtons on the canines. On screen, you can see these sources for bite force on Bengal tigers. You can see the inconsistencies for yourself. I will throw some data for lions too, since sometimes people mention that gorillas have higher bite force than lions, which seems to be false. If we look at studies done on gorillas' bite force, we would find various sources claiming a bite force of around 1,300 to 3,400 Newton. Also, some things to note. Gorillas' skull are designed to grind fibrous vegetation. They have non-locking jaw, and a significant portion of jaw musculature is devoted to lateral motion for grinding of vegetation. This reduces mechanical efficiency for a pure vertical killing force, and having more slow-twitch muscles fibers. Prioritize chewing over explosive biting. They lack carnassial teeth. While they have canines, they aren't sharp like other carnivore species, as they serve the purpose of intimidation, rather than for pure fighting or slicing flesh. And as is witnessed, gorillas rarely use biting while fighting. This quoting of bite forces, especially those PSI ones in animal battle community, is something that has bothered me a lot for a while. Now we are past this, let me actually touch upon the stats of a gorilla, which is even less reliable than the bite force, not its size though. We can reliably know how big a gorilla is. Before that, we have to decide on the species of the gorilla, since there are 2 species, and further 2 subspecies each. I will choose the largest species of gorilla, to be fair to it since it will be going up against 100 men. There seemed to be contestation between eastern mountain and eastern lowland gorilla on who is the biggest. I am not that well informed on it, but some similar situation that I know is an ongoing debate over Bengal tiger and Siberian tiger, and you can argue either way. So, I am going to use average data from ChatGPT. It shouldn't make much difference anyway. After that, our average mountain gorilla would stand at 200 kilograms and 5 feet 8 inches. But how strong is it? This is going to be speculation on my part since I can't find any research on this, but rest assured that all the numbers of it benching this and that is all made up. Moreover, all the base I have for this speculation is just observing gorillas in documentaries, anecdotal evidence, some understanding of gorillas' anatomy, and some studies done on chimpanzees. First, let me acknowledge the narrative that most people seem to believe, on gorillas being almost a mythological creature, symbolic of strength. I have heard people say that they are around 20 times as strong as an average human being, that they can lift 2 tons, they can tear humans limb from limb, they punch with 13,800 newtons of force. Them having thick hide, that can't be damaged by humans, and that a gorilla would plow through even 100 human beings. I think these depictions come from a lack of understanding and the tendency to hype something up to make it larger than life. And one of the purpose of this video is to dispel these myths and try and establish some baseline for facts. And now here is my understanding of how powerful a gorilla actually is, backed up by some data, though I don't believe that they are as powerful as a weakest space marines. They are way stronger than an average human. Gorillas and chimps aren't anatomically designed to lift like a human does. They can barely even stay upright for a short amount of time. They do have a very high dense bone, around 1.5 to 2 times denser than a human, which means it's less likely to get fractured. They have massive upper body. Their muscles mass is 37.3% that of their total body weight. And they are stockily built with massive arms, especially their forearms, since 60 to 70% of their limb muscle mass is their forearms that they use to support their weight while hanging. Their musculoskeletal model shows that they have well-developed subscapularis muscle, teres major, and pectoralis muscles that give them superior arm-lowering motion. Meanwhile, they have very good pulling and pushing strength. Without going too much into detail, what does this actually mean? It means, unlike humans, gorillas are evolved to do different things. All those data on bench and lift are all made up and are just assumptions. However, gorillas are evolved to climb around, pull and push around other objects. Also, they don't throw jabs, cross, uppercut, like a human does. They swing their massive hands around, or pummel them down, or frail them around. By how much force? I can't say. Gorillas aren't made up of some super material. They have similar muscle fibers to us humans. Why? But by how much? This study done on chimps' muscle fiber has some answers. It shows that they have higher concentration of fast twitch muscle. Thus, they are around 1.35 times stronger than humans for the same amount of muscles. And gorillas are so muscular, it's like they are on steroids. A silver back would be incredibly strong. By how much? There is a mention of an experiment in 1920s where a gorilla pulled 450 kilograms. And there was an experiment done in 1920s by Bauman in which their largest chimp basically pulled 384 kilograms in the same pose where Captain America pulled the helicopter in Civil War. And a female chimp, while holding the bar, pulled 550 kilograms while doing something similar to a horizontal deadlift. Later, in 1943, Glenn Flinch tried to verify those results and conducted an experiment where male chimps on average pulled around 220 kilograms. Similar to humans involved in those experiments, while being much smaller in size and weight. I think that the better question we should be asking is not how much a gorilla can lift, but how much a gorilla can pull, other than that 450 kilograms, which is vaguely cited. There is also that rumors of Guinness World Record of gorilla lifting 815 kilograms, which does not exist in the Guinness World Records. There are other numbers ranging from 1,800 pounds all the way to 8,000 pounds, but I cannot find any credible sources supporting those claims. They all seem to be conjecture. Lifting 8,000 pounds, depending on the definition of the lift, would make a gorilla as strong as a Space Marines. From my understanding, it seems plausible to assume that an average gorilla is anywhere between 4 to 6 times stronger than an average human being. Them being able to pull and not lift, mind you, with around 500 kilograms of impulse. That's not unbelievable, but that's still very impressive. And there are anecdotal evidence of them uprooting banana trees, dragging and rolling logs and rocks, and swinging around other gorillas. To confirm that, now that we have a general understanding of how strong a gorilla is, let's look at the specs of an average human being. An average man has the height of 5 feet 9 inches and weight of 90 kilograms. There will be some variation among the 100 people, which will actually be an advantage for humans to employ certain tactics. But for the sake of simplicity, we won't go into tactics and the mindset of the opponent in this scenario. In reality, neither 100 humans, maybe except some, nor a gorilla would want to fight each other. And it won't matter, because either way, a gorilla would absolutely get destroyed by 100 men, if they are committed. Now, how would a gorilla's fight, and how would the humans fight? It's a question of strength versus technique, endurance, and numbers. And all odds are against the gorilla. Gorillas fight by showing their teeth some posturing, and then they usually brawl with arms flailing, or they try to grapple and wrestle. Realistically, a gorilla would just run away if he sees 100 men charging. But let's say it's a battle to death, and they all have been under mind control to fight till they die. For context, this is what a group of 100 men would look like, and this is the size difference between a gorilla and a man. Let's answer how much damage will the A gorilla do to a single man? And no, they are not going to tear someone into pieces in an instant or send someone flying 10 meters away single-shotting them. Tearing off an actual arm would take around 10,000 to 20,000 Newton of force. It's a lot. And gorillas definitely doesn't generate that much force. Even at its peak pulling using its strongest muscle, it's nowhere near close. And to actually pick someone up and tear the arms like some imagine it to, the gorilla will have to do it using triceps and shoulders. It's an amusing idea, but very unrealistic. I also don't think that their punching force is as strong as it is hyped up to be. Not that anyone has tested it, but just looking at the videos, I presume. It will break some bones, but unless without a critical hit, it's not going to be a one-shot kill. It would take a good mauling of more than a few seconds to kill a man. 100 people won't be able to attack it all at once, so it will have to be in group of maybe around 10 men. Yes, the first wave gonna suffer some serious injuries, and some may even die. But numbers can be very overwhelming. Just imagine how pack hunters fight off predators way bigger than them. For example, wolves and grizzly bears, or how humans been hunting way larger games than a gorilla like mammoths since prehistoric time. Here, 10 men can circle the gorilla and try and tire it out with fake charges. The gorilla would eventually get someone and start beating the shit out of him, while the others can kick on the back of gorilla, and humans might not be able to hurt the gorilla seriously in one hit, but it will slowly add up. Humans can be efficient at punching and kicking. They can generate anywhere from 1,000 to 13,000 Newton of force while kicking. 300 to 6,000 Newton of force for punching, but it's going to be in the lower end for more average people. Also, there is misconception that gorillas have very thick hides that is almost invulnerable to human attacks. They actually have skin more similar to humans than a buffalo's. They have that tight skin like a human rather than a loose one. That's why leopards' claws are more effective against them. And leopards often prey upon gorillas, rarely on a silverback though. And yet another thing that humans have in their favor is endurance. We have the most endurance among any animals. One of the reasons why humans were able to kill so many large games. They just tired them out. And it will be a very bad news for a gorilla. Since all those explosive power it has, it traded them for lack of endurance, from the cardiovascular system to lactic acid built up from fatigue. When the gorilla is running around trying to get the first wave, it will already run out of gas. And we still have 90 people left. Not to even mention the dirty tactics, like some guy jumping on its back and gouging its eyes out, or kicking it in the balls. Eventually, it will get too tired to even move. Those guys would pin it down, and all the remaining dozens of people would stomp it to death. Will there be a few casualties? Yes, sure. But the gorilla has no chance whatsoever. Not to mention that human can employ superior tactics and strategy. They have very functional limbs that they use to put chokeholds. Not everyone can do this, but with right technique, humans have defeated so many dangerous animals, like large dogs, wolves, small leopards, cougars, etc. People often underplay humans, while gorilla is one of the most overrated animals out there. Sure, it is strong, but not as strong as people would believe, and a leopard would still predate on it. The bottom line is, one human would absolutely get destroyed by a gorilla, and 100 men would absolutely destroy a gorilla. It is not even a debate. It's crazy that some people believe that's not just possible, but probable. It would be an interesting world we live in if that were true. Not surprised to see gorillas in chainmails destroying armies. Jokes aside, more interesting question is, how would a gorilla and 10 men fare? That is actually interesting. I can see it going both ways. A gorilla might clutch it while being super fatigued. End of video.